As someone who absolutely fears the left's growing power, I think the smart play is for moderate Dems to go on Piker's show and agree with them that Israel is bad and then stick to their guns on other moderate stuff. Ha! See? Even Matt Iglesias is literally waving the fucking white flag on Israel. Okay? That's it. He's not wrong, right? He's waving the fucking white flag on that. So he's like, dude, just go on and like gain the legitimacy on the Israel issue. Please, you guys are going to fuck this up. That's what he's saying. Yeah, see? Look. And anti-Israel is one of the only non-toxic progressive views. If you're going to give the left something, that's what it should be. Then be pro-growth, tough on crime, etc. And yes, he's right. It's so unbelievably bad for Democrats to consistently posture against someone like myself because of very clearly the values that I represent on this issue that is a 90-10 issue on our side. It's the Democrats not exactly really taking a consistent moral stance against problematic podcasters or whatever, because they've all said they would go on Joe Rogan. He said, you know, he's clearly right-wing, MAGA booster. It's ridiculous. It actually has everything to do with them not wanting to give ground on the Israel issue and not wanting to even appear anywhere near this issue. I don't know how Adam doesn't see it here when he saw it with Zoran. The Jewish fear smear was used endlessly with Zoran. It was stupid and racist then. It's stupid and racist now. Yeah, the only difference is he likes Zoran. He's probably met Zoran. He doesn't know me, and he doesn't like me. That's it. So for him, he will look through the minutia to be like, well, Hasan has said this, right? Like, I saw a clip out of context, so now I believe the clip out of context that Hasan is actually an anti-Semite. Because, like, they don't know. Most people don't pay that close attention, right? He also most likely favors Mallory over Abdul, but he doesn't want to say it. Yeah. And to be fair, obviously, one, Zoran is the mayor of New York, right? So his worldview versus like the way he carries himself now, obviously he plays a lot more ball than I do, right? He is way, way more conciliatory to smears, no matter how ridiculous and how racist they are. I mean, think about how much it took. Think about how much shit he ate, in especially the last month of that campaign, until he had to put his foot down and be like, enough. This is unbelievable. What the hell are we doing here? This is like incredibly racist. This is my first time watching one of your streams before. I would consider myself a democratic socialist from all I've seen and read about. Not much right now as a 19-year-old university student, full-time worker. That label and associated policy sits best with me. Can you recommend any theory I should learn more? All I've seen is entry-level commentary, some debates, interviews. Thanks. Thanks if you see this. What's a good starting point to read for this chatter? For the Zoloft addict 19-year-old chatters? What do we think? Okay, everyone is saying Marx and Lenin. I mean, I agree, but there's probably a better entry point than Lenin. Lenin can be a little dense. Parenti? Michael Parenti? But even then, that's like black shirts and reds. Mark Graber, he's easy to get into. That's true. Lenin is not dense. Marx is. I mean, even Lenin is dense. But Marx is even denser. Is David Graeber? Mark Fisher. Oh, I think that chatter mixed up. Is it Mark Graeber? It's David Graeber and Mark Fisher. All right, let's run this. 300 U.S. soldiers wounded as Israel vows to escalate strikes on Iran.
Intense bombing in Iran, lighting up the sky in the capital, Tehran, amid more exchanges of fire with Israel and the US, and satellite imagery showing the destruction at a US base in Saudi Arabia after it was hit in an Iranian drone attack, at least 10 American service members injured. Officials telling ABC News at least 2 were seriously wounded and at least 1 tanker damaged in the Friday attack. Altogether, more than 300 American troops have been injured and 13 killed as the war now enters its 5th week. And this morning, even more troops are on the way. Multiple US officials telling ABC News a 3rd US aircraft carrier, the USS George H.W.
Have you ever talked about the impact of racist smears against you? Wait, hold on. I got to get the door. Yes, I have, but it doesn't matter. It's relevant. I can take it.
Bush is heading to the Middle East. They'll join another 2,200 US Marines set to arrive in the region any day now. And with up to 1,500 paratroopers preparing to deploy too, questions mounting as to whether a ground operation into Iran is imminent. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaking to G7 leaders in France on Friday, saying the US can reach its goals without putting boots on the ground.
And we can achieve them without any ground troops, without any.
Just hours later, President Trump speaking at a Saudi-backed investment conference, calling himself a peacemaker, praising the US-Israeli operation and saying the US is now, quote, just going after targets in Iran.
We have another 3,554 targets left, and that'll be done pretty quickly. And then, at some point, we're going to have to determine what we do.
Overnight, Iran reporting more strikes on its nuclear facilities and steel factories. Video of the confirmed Israeli strikes posted on social media showing smoke billowing from one of the factories. Just hours later, Iran launching a fresh wave of retaliatory strikes on Israel. Video circulating online showing the moment of a missile impact in Tel Aviv. At least one person killed, a man in his 60s, and multiple others injured. While the death toll inside Iran climbs to at least 1,900. In southern Lebanon, where the IDF says it's widening its ground invasion to create a buffer zone against Iran-backed Hezbollah, more than 1,116 people killed, over 1 million displaced, according to Lebanese authorities, the UN warning it's facing a humanitarian catastrophe. And with Iran-backed Houthis now joining this war, launching missiles towards Israel from Yemen, there are fears of this conflict expanding. That's despite Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying that the U.S. is hopeful of having meetings with Iran this week. Rachel?
Yeah, as this war enters now its fifth week. All right, Britt, thank you.
1 month into the war with Iran, the country continues to fire back at targets across the Middle East. Overnight, Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia was attacked, and sources tell CBS News the attack was carried out using missiles and drones. Meanwhile, oil closed at its highest price, and stocks had their worst day since the war with Iran started. The Dow Jones Industrial Average entered correction territory. It's now down more than 10% from its all-time high. The Nasdaq sank deeper into correction territory, and the S&P 500 is on its longest losing streak since 2022. Holly Williams is in Tel Aviv with the latest on the war and President Trump's threat to expand his use of the U.S. military. Holly, good morning.
Good morning. 10 American service members were injured yesterday by an Iranian missile strike on a base in Saudi Arabia, according to U.S. officials, with 2 of them sustaining very serious injuries.
They're being hit so hard, anybody would be negotiating. They are negotiating. They're begging to make a deal.
President Trump repeated his claim last night that Iran's leaders are eager to negotiate an end to the war, pointing to the degradation of Iran's missile capabilities.
We knocked out 97% of the launchers.
But Iran is still launching missiles, doing damage here in Israel overnight. And Iran's leaders are wielding a powerful economic weapon. With strikes and the threat of mines, Iran has effectively paralyzed traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, sending energy prices soaring and piling pressure on Trump to end the war.
Now, this is the narrow.
The Strait of Hormuz normally carries around 20% of the world's oil. That's around 20 million barrels a day.
Could a single mine take out an oil tanker with a hull worth hundreds of millions of dollars and cargo worth hundreds of millions of dollars?
Nobody is going to take a chances like this.
Even with a military escort, there's no 100% guarantee that an oil tanker could make it safely through the Strait of Hormuz.
Exactly.
Iran has reportedly charged some ships up to $2 million each for safe passage, described either as a toll booth system or a shakedown. Even with war in the Middle East raging, Trump hinted last night that he has another country in his sights.
They built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it, but sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way, but pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that, please.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said yesterday that he expects the war to continue for weeks, not months. And he said the U.S. can achieve its goals in Iran without any ground troops. Kelly.
Holly Williams for us in Tel Aviv, thank you.
With the first missile from Yemen, a wider war seems all the more likely. I think that Cuba aside was a little annoying. Although that's just like the
Classic.
yeah, they do. They love just throwing that in as a dagger.
How do I share where
With whom?
I'm going? Oh, here. All right. Wait, hold on. Let me sit down here real quick. There's
Please.
not a lot of space here, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I saw. Is that your beanie? Okay. No, I got my hat. It's fine. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna keep running I'm gonna keep running the videos for a little bit. We are going to intercept the No Kings rally, and then I'm gonna be out a little bit. We'll do IRLs. We'll ask some people like how they feel about the No Kings rally, where things are going. We'll interview some folks out there, hopefully, and then I'll be back later. We'll do the virtual rally as well. That's just gonna be like a 15-minute hit that I'm gonna be doing. I'll see you on the other side in a second.
Likely. Israel said early Saturday its air defenses responded to incoming fire from Yemen. This came after the Iran-backed Houthis expressed their readiness to join the conflict in a televised address on Friday.
We affirm that our fingers are on the trigger for direct military intervention in any of the following cases: the joining of any additional alliances with the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the axis of jihad and resistance; the use of the Red Sea to carry out hostile operations by the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic of Iran or against any Muslim country. We will not allow that.
Although military intervention could refer to strikes on Israel, the announcement has primarily raised fear of renewed attacks on the Red Sea. All eyes are now on the Bab el-Mandeb. This vital corridor off the coast of Yemen, connecting the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Attacks on the strait would further disrupt the global energy market, already impaired by Iran's effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz. At a Yemeni rally in solidarity with Iran, Lebanon, and Palestine, some expressed their support for Houthi involvement in the war.
We stand with our brothers in Iran. We are not neutral. At any moment, when the time comes, we will intervene, if God wills that we'll intervene. And when we see blatant aggression against our country, we are ready.
The Houthis have already shown their ability to disrupt global trade. In late 2023, the group launched attacks on international shipping vessels in the Red Sea, which they said were in support of Palestine in the Israel-Hamas war.
Let's return now to our top story. The missiles launched from Yemen by the Ansarullah Houthis towards Israel, and as we said, is the first attack by the Iran allies in this conflict. Ansarullah, or the Houthis, were founded in the 1990s as a Shia Muslim political organization. But in the early 2000s, it became a militarized movement involved in armed conflicts with the Yemeni government. Fighters seized the capital, Sana'a, in 2014. Since then, they've consolidated control over the northwest. This triggered more than a decade of conflict with a Saudi-led coalition, which backed the internationally recognized government. Well, let's bring in our guest panel. Joining me here in the studio is Mohammed Al-Masri. He's Professor of Media Studies at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. And in Milan, we're joined by Ibrahim Jalal. He's a senior researcher and policy advisor on Yemen, the Gulf, and the Horn of Africa. If I could start with Ibrahim in Milan. So, Ibrahim, are we about to see the Ansarullah Houthis now widen their attacks to include a whole range of targets beyond simply Israel? Is that the direction that you see the Houthis going in?
Thanks for having me. It was anticipated that the Houthis will join this war since February 28. It was a matter of timing. And when we review the Houthi cross-border attacks over the past couple of years and decade, they always depend on phased and layered approach to scale up and widen the scope of targets. Over time, now that the Houthis have their arsenal intact, they have deployed, a sizable amount of drones and missiles in a decentralized manner. They will realize over time that striking, as they did in the past, that striking a target 1,100 kilometers north is distant, less effective, although it adds up military pressure, exhausts the defenses, and they might to target eventually in the second and third phases what would they call Israeli vessels through Bab el-Mandeb. And when that happened, we knew in 2023, 2024, 2025 that this meant the global shipping passing through that, regardless of what they say in practice. So that might be another layer of escalation.
All right, that's an important point. We'll come back to it in a second. But focusing here on the Gulf, Mohammed Al-Masri, does this mean further targeting and pressure on the Gulf? The Houthis are already talking about U.S. bases. Could it extend beyond that?
That is possible. That is possible. I mean, we're now entering the 5th week of this war, and with each passing day, we climb the escalation ladder a little bit farther, and there's always the risk of bringing actors in. People were asking for weeks now when the Iranians might play this card, might activate the Ansarullah Houthis, and now we're getting.
Do you think it's connected to the shift that we've seen in U.S. and Israeli attacks focusing more now on civilian infrastructure within Iran, steel factories and so on?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's a coincidence that yesterday you had a significant escalation by the Americans and the Israelis, targeting civilian infrastructure throughout Iran. In one attack in Isfahan, according to Dropsite News, 7 women and 7 children were killed in one attack, and there were other attacks on residential neighborhoods across the country, especially in Tehran. And Israel's been using, according to some sources, these heavy bombs, these 2,000-pound bombs that are knocking out basically like residential neighborhoods, like an entire city block. And so with that in mind, and Israel also yesterday attacked at least one university, I think today's activation of the Houthis is not a coincidence, it's a response.
Okay, and Ibrahim, you mentioned international shipping. Just how critical are the shipping lanes near Yemen to the world economy? When you look at some of the details, 12% of the world's seaborne oil, 10% of its LNG, 10% of world trade going through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, right?
Yes, that's very alarming, and especially when it's compounded by a coordinated multi-strait blockade, as we see now with the Hormuz Strait. And this is exactly the theater that Iran has been preparing for. What we saw in the past few years with the Houthis, that was a smaller scale, performative, geographically bounded operation. It's been always bounded to what this would mean when we have a coordinated multi-strait blockade where you have a greater deniability of, maritime passage, disruption of LNG across a few straits, and this might even extend to direct targeting of Suez Canal, especially now that we have the Yanbu East-West pipeline, which has been rerouting a few millions of Saudi crude oil when it's been one of the bypasses that are functional. So this is alarming in many ways. It will highly likely invite international responses targeting the Houthis, and the Houthis have made it to the national security doctrines of many states. This will not go unresponded to, and is only deepening, the whole direction of the weakening of the